the first monarch to perform, as we were saying, that task since the late Queen Elizabeth did that task some 50 years ago. We're going to be talking about that speech now with Dr. Ed Owens, who's a royal historian, and with Michael Williams from the University of Ottawa. It was a fascinating speech. I mean, within the bounds of protocol, royal protocol, and I suppose parliamentary convention, King Charles, yes, he discussed the legislative programme, the politics of the Canadian government in the next term of that government, but there were some surprisingly direct, I thought, within those bounds, references to the pressure on Canada, not least from across the border in Washington, where Donald Trump has again and again made it clear that his great ambition is to take ownership of Canada for America, to make it the 51st state of the Union. Dr. Ed Owens, what did you make of what you heard?
I agree with you, John. I think it was very direct in singling out the relationship between Canada and the United States and making very clear that this relationship would evolve along lines of mutual respect. I think that was the quote, and making very clear that this is not going to be any kind of takeover by the United States of Canada. Instead, they were going to continue to collaborate, working together in friendship, along lines especially of economy, but also in terms of defence. I think that was singled out as well. So I think a very direct reference to that, putting to bed any concerns around a possible takeover of Canada by the United States.
And Michael Williams, Professor Michael Williams, I've got to say my eyes widened just a little when I heard the King on the throne talking about Canada facing a critical moment, about the importance of the rule of law, about self-determination. That's a loaded phrase in a speech like this. Talking about Canadian unique ideals and other references too, and the meaning of that within the bounds of protocol. That was crystal clear.
Yes, I thought so. I mean, I think it was a speech that was remarkably free of platitudes, given that these things are always, to some extent, filled with platitudes. But it had a great deal more directness, and I think a great deal more specificity and content to it than one often sees in a throne speech. And the King was clearly comfortable with that.
Indeed. I mean, and Ed, this was a speech that was drafted presumably in the office of the Prime Minister. If that follows the pattern of a United Kingdom Parliament state opening, and I suppose maybe a skillful piece of draftsmanship there, because it didn't cross the tram lines. It didn't overtly send any direct message of defiance to Donald Trump. But again, I mean, Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, and this is a subject where views in support of Canada against that challenge from Donald Trump, it crosses all party lines. Just look at the latest opinion polls. I suppose you need to give marks to the drafters of this speech, Ed, don't you?
Yeah, it was a deft piece of draftsmanship, as you suggest. I thought it was perfectly pitched. Honestly speaking, especially with the King drawing on his French language skills as well, to make clear to the Quebecois that they are very much part of this ceremonial event and this ceremonial moment. Of course, there were one or two dog whistles in there as well. I thought they were quite interesting. The reference to fentanyl crossing the border, and that laws and checks would be strengthened there. You know, that was a direct mention of something that will appeal to Donald Trump, and suggest that the Canadians and the USA are going to be collaborating over efforts to protect the border. So I thought there was some interesting references there in terms of the speech.
It did tread a delicate line, Michael, didn't it? The reference to action, giving the border authorities power to deal with the trade in fentanyl and fentanyl components. Although the volume of fentanyl crossing the border from Canada into America is pretty much negligible. It has been, the subject of Donald Trump's criticism over and over again. Some would say rather a pretense, but it was addressed. And we did hear the required, I suppose, references in the speech to the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Canada working together on joint projects. So, as we say, a delicate piece of work by the drafters of the speech, delivered by the King. And clearly, we know already, because in the way these things are transmitted, and there are parents anyway, a speech the King would have been very, very happy to give, Michael.
Yes, I think so. As you say, there were a number of call-outs to Mr. Trump. The fentanyl issue, as you point out, is a tricky one, because it is, at one level, much more rhetorical than real. A stress on military spending, which has also been a crucial issue, a stress on defense of the North, which is something that also comes out of Washington quite frequently. Very interestingly, I thought at the very beginning of the speech, where the King referred to being in Canada at a time of national pride, unity, and hope. And I think that is a double-edged message. It's a message that is clearly to the rest of the world, particularly to the southern neighbors. But it's also, to a lesser extent, but not an insignificant one, a message to Canada, because after all, one has seen, especially in the wake of the last election that brought Mr. Carney to power, a resurgence of separatist sentiment in the province of Alberta in Western Canada, which is not dominant, but is nonetheless not insignificant. So what you got looking there is a focus on very much the entire speech was, as you would expect in a federal speech, but nonetheless very much focused on the idea of a nation united, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, and as we speak, those Canadian parliamentarians have risen to their feet and given the King a burst of applause, a standing ovation, which is again something you don't see in the House of Commons or the House of Lords come state opening day. And here, one imagines a very, very unfeigned demonstration of appreciation for the role the King has played today. For now, Dr. Ed Owens, Royal Historian, and Professor Michael Williams of Ottawa University, thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, Martin. The King just walking past my position here, inspecting his Guard of Honour, a 100-person Guard of Honour from the 3rd Battalion Royal Canadian Rifles brooch. The Queen, of course, has a personal connection to Canada. Her great-great-great-grandfather was a Premier here in the former province of Canada before it parted ways. His Majesty just King has two roles, and those roles should be treated completely separately. He acts on the advice of the Canadian Premier as well as the as the UK government as well, and he. As he goes into the Senate to deliver a speech on behalf of his government, led by Prime Minister Carney, accompanied by Her Majesty the Queen there, the Governor-General of Canada, Mary Simon.
Yeah. We're just kind of, I think there's no one here realised.